All right, get ready to dive deep with us today.
Into Bonanza.
You got it. It's an online marketplace you're thinking about really diving into.
Yeah, and it sounds like you want to go way beyond just the basics.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're here for.
That's why we're here today. And let me tell you, the source material we've been digging through goes deep.
Yeah.
We're using Bonanza's own guides, getting into some really detailed strategy stuff.
There's a lot to unpack here, but that's the fun of it.
Right. And what's interesting is how Bonanza kind of positions themselves
as the anti-eBay.
Yeah, like they really play up that seller-friendly angle.
Exactly.
But let's break that down because seller-friendly can mean a lot of things.
What's the real advantage for you, right?
Yeah, what's the bottom line?
One of the big things is the fee structure.
Oh, fees. Everyone's favorite topic.
Right. But on Bonanza, there are NO listing fees.
None?
0. You only pay when you make a sale.
Okay, now that I is interesting, especially compared to a place like Etsy.
Where those listing fees can really add up if you have a lot of items.
Yeah, if you're stocking a whole shop, that gets expensive fast.
So right off the bat, Bonanza saves you money.
Okay, so that's a definite win for sellers.
For sure.
But let's talk about the fees when you DO sell something.
All right, hit me.
Like walk me through it as if I'm seeing a Bonanza bill for the first time.
Okay, imagine this. You've just sold your amazing handmade whatchamacallit.
We'll call it a scarf. Everyone loves a good scarf.
Perfect. A handmade scarf for $30 and shipping is $12.
Okay, so that's $42 total. Right.
Not quite. This is where that final order value comes in. They call it FOV.
FOV, got it. Another acronym to remember.
It basically includes the item price, Pele US, any shipping cost over $10.
Oh, okay. So in this case, it would be
$32 because only $2 of that shipping goes above the $10 base.
Right. So the fee is calculated on that $32 total, not the full $42.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Now, here's something I'm curious about. Does Bonanza kind of incentivize you to be a long-term seller in any way?
Oh, you're thinking strategically now.
Well, got to make sure this platform's a good fit, right?
And this is where Bonanza gets really interesting because their fee structure has tiers.
Tiers.
Yeah, based on your FOV. So the higher your final value, the lower the percentage you pay in fees.
So it's like they're rewarding you for selling more, making bigger sales.
Exactly. It encourages sellers to think bigger, to build that loyal customer base, aim for those higher value items over time.
So it's not just about making quick sales, it's about growing your business on their platform.
You got it.
Which is pretty smart from their perspective.
Right. They want you to succeed because then they succeed.
Makes sense. Okay, now let's talk about the types of stuff you can actually sell on Bonanza.
What can't you sell? Right.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Is it as anything goes as eBay, or is it more specialized?
It occupies a fascinating middle ground, honestly.
Oh, tell me more.
You've got vintage, you've got handmade, new items, collectibles, all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so pretty diverse.
Very diverse. But it's not as overwhelmingly massive as eBay.
So maybe it's easier to stand out.
I think so. It's like they have that potential for niche success, but without being restricted to just one super specific category.
Right, so you've got options, you've got flexibility. And speaking of options, you have options when it comes to pricing, right?
You bet.
I know some marketplaces are super strict, like it's fixed price or nothing.
And others are all about the haggling, the back and forth.
Which, honestly, I'm not always in the mood for.
Well, with Bonanza, you get to choose.
Tell me everything.
Fixed price is great if you know your value. You want things straightforward.
Easy peasy.
But they also have that best offer option if you're open to negotiation, or maybe you're dealing with rarer items where the price is more fluid, you know?
Okay, so you've got choices. And you also have choices when it comes to setting up shop, right?
Choices galore on Bonanza.
But let's get practical here, because we've talked about fees and what you can sell and pricing. But how do I actually get started?
That's where your Bonanza booth comes in.
Booth, huh? I like it. There's a nice ring to it.
Right. Creating an account is free. Super easy.
Always a good start.
Standard info, you know, but here's the thing. That booth name.
Ooh, the name. That's important.
It's got to be memorable.
Catchy.
And relevant to what you're selling.
Okay, so if I'm selling, let's say, antique maps.
Love it.
I probably shouldn't call my booth Sparkly Shoes Galore, right?
Probably not the best fit.
Even though I do love sparkly shoes.
Think about what a buyer searching for antique maps would type in.
Okay, so something like
charting history or maps of the past, you know, something evocative.
I like it.
Branding matters even on a marketplace like Bonanza.
It makes a difference, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so booth name is checked off the list.
Account created.
What's next? What's the next big hurdle to actually making sales?
This is where a lot of sellers, they kind of stumble,
Uh-oh, what is it?
creating listings that actually convert.
Turn those browsers into buyers.
Exactly. And it all starts with photos that stand out in that sea of listings.
Because most people just, like, snap a quick pic with their phone.
And that's not going to cut it on Bonanza.
All right, spill the tea. What are some photo tips they really stress in their guide?
Multiple angles.
Okay, that makes sense.
Front, back, sides, even close-ups of details, like the materials, any unique features.
So think like a buyer. What would I want to see?
Absolutely, because you're trying to give them all the information they need before they even click that buy button.
And honesty is important too, right? Especially with vintage or used stuff.
Oh, huge, huge.
How much should you show flaws, though? Like, is it better to hide them or...
Being upfront is always better, honestly.
Even if it's like a scratch or a stain,
A close-up photo and an honest description, it builds trust.
makes you seem more reliable.
Exactly. It's way worse for a buyer to feel misled when they get the item.
Right, because then they might leave a bad review.
And on Bonanza, you're building a reputation.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so multiple angles, honesty with close-ups.
What about lighting?
Yeah, that's huge
Yeah.
for photos.
Natural light is your best friend whenever possible.
Find that perfect window.
Yes. Indirect sunlight, overcast days are actually ideal if you're shooting outside.
But what if you're selling, like, bulky furniture?
That you can't lug outside for a photo shoot every time.
Right, exactly.
If you have to use artificial light, invest in some soft boxes, maybe a ring light.
To avoid those harsh shadows.
And then the glare. Nobody wants glare.
It's like those professional product photos you see online.
Exactly. But adaptable for the home seller, right?
Right. Now, what about background?
Oh, this is a pet peeve of mine.
Tell me everything.
Clean, uncluttered, always.
When-
White or light gray usually works best.
The item should be the star.
Not your messy kitchen counter.
Amen to that. Now, speaking of those pro shots, I've seen some Bonanza sellers get really creative.
With the styling, the props.
It can be really cool, but I guess there's a catch.
There is, and it's all about knowing your audience.
Don't leave me hanging.
Okay, so those styled photos, they have to fit the item and your target audience.
Okay, so give me an example.
Say you're selling vintage tools,
Okay, I can see that.
a rustic workbench background.
Makes total sense.
Right, but putting those tools on a fluffy pink blanket,
Maybe not so much.
not the right vibe.
Right, so think like your ideal buyer.
Not just about what looks pretty.
Got it. Now let's talk about the other half of a great listing, the description.
Ah, yes, the words.
Because photos grab attention, but the description is where you seal the deal.
Tell me everything.
All right, hit me with your best description writing tips. What does Bonanza really emphasize?
Imagine you're a lazy, impatient online shopper.
Aren't we all sometimes?
Be specific. Brand, size, materials, condition, measurements, anything a buyer might search for to find that exact item.
So basically, cute top isn't going to cut it.
Nope. Gotta be way more specific than that.
Like that.
Vintage 1980s floral silk blouse, size medium, excellent condition.
Wow, okay, that's detail.
Those long, specific phrases, those are your long-tail keywords.
Long tail keywords, gotta love the jargon.
They're gold for Bonanza search. That's how you get found.
So it's not just about sounding nice, it's about being searchable.
You got it. Now, beyond keywords, what else makes a description stand out?
Give me the secret sauce.
Tell a story.
Ooh, I like that.
Why is this item special? What's its history? What are its unique features?
Make the buyer want it.
Yes. Make them imagine owning it, how awesome their life will be once they do.
It's like sales copywriting, but for that one-of-a-kind Bonanza find.
You nailed it.
All right, now let's talk about the part that makes or breaks a sale. Pricing.
The moment of truth.
How does Bonanza approach this? How do you find that sweet spot?
Research, my friend, research. Don't just guess.
Don't just throw a number out there.
Look at similar items on Bonanza itself. Look at eBay's sold listings, even other marketplaces.
Okay, so do your homework.
And think about brand, condition, rarity. Is this mass-produced or something unique?
Because a beat-up old book won't fetch the same price as one in mint condition.
Absolutely. You got to be realistic.
And adjust your price accordingly.
Overpricing is a huge turnoff for buyers, especially when there are tons of similar items competing with yours.
Right, it's all about being competitive.
And remember those fees we talked about?
Ugh, fees. Always got to factor those in.
Make sure you're actually making money, not just breaking even.
Profit is the goal.
Now, if you're using that best offer option, any strategic advice there,
Bill it.
build in a little buffer price a bit higher than your absolute bottom line to give yourself some wiggle room for negotiation.
So it's like a silent bidding war, but hopefully not too cutthroat.
Right. You want to be open to offers, but you also want to make sure you're getting a fair price.
Makes sense. Any other pricing wisdom before we move on?
Remember that market value can fluctuate.
Oh, for sure.
What sold for $100 last month might only go for $75 today.
Stay up to date. Be flexible.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got our booth set up. Our listings are looking good. Prices are on point.
Now what?
But how do we actually get people to see all this hard work?
That's where the hustle comes in.
The hustle.
And luckily, Bonanza has some pretty unique features to help you stand out.
Well, I'm all ears. Let's hear it. We're back and ready for more Bonanza action. We've got our booth set up. Listings are prepped. But now it's time to make some sales.
It's go time. Time to make that cash. And here's a little nugget I found. When digging through Bonanza's guide, their algorithm really seems to love fresh content.
Really? Fresh content?
Yeah, so it's not just about listing new items frequently, which is important, of course, but relisting popular items can actually give you a boost, too.
Wait, so even if something hasn't sold, relisting it can help?
It's a little trick that can help your items get seen more often. The algorithm likes to see activity and new things appearing.
That's good to know because, full disclosure, I'm definitely guilty of the set it and forget it approach sometimes.
It's a good reminder for all of us. Bonanza is designed to reward active sellers.
So it's like they're saying, hey, we see you, we appreciate you putting in the effort.
Exactly. And speaking of putting in the effort, remember those keywords we talked about for descriptions?
Oh yeah, those were super important.
Well, they're crucial for ongoing search optimization too, not just the initial listing.
Right, because what's the point of having an amazing listing if it's buried where no one can find it?
Exactly. You've got to use those relevant keywords in your item titles, and Bonanza has this thing called item traits.
Item traits. Okay, remind me what those are again. How specific do we need to be here?
Imagine you're selling that vintage leather jacket we talked about.
Oh yeah, the classic find.
So your item traits would be vintage, leather, jacket, of course. But then you get even more specific. Brand, size, color, maybe even the era if it's a specific style.
The more detail, the better.
Think of it this way. It's like those super organized digital thrift stores where every item is perfectly tagged and categorized so you can find exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, that's a great analogy. So basically, Bonanza is like the ultimate online treasure hunt.
Exactly. And the best part is, those item traits don't just help buyers on Bonanza find you, they also feed directly into Google Shopping.
Oh, right. That Google Shopping integration, I almost forgot about that. Does that cost extra to use, or is that included when you set up shop on Bonanza?
There's a free version, which is great for getting started.
Awesome, but then...
But if you really want to go all out and you're ready to invest, they have a paid version that gives you even more control over how your listings appear in those Google Shopping results.
So it's like choose your own adventure, but for marketing. I like it. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're listing regularly, optimizing for search, taking advantage of Google. But what about social media?
Ah, yes. The social media hustle. Can't forget about that.
This is where it gets fun and a little overwhelming sometimes.
Right. So many platforms, so little time. But it's all about connecting with your target audience, So which platforms are you already using or thinking about using for your Bonanza items?
Well, I've been using Instagram a lot lately, but I'm not sure how effective it would be for something like selling antique books, for example. Is it all about pretty pictures?
Instagram is definitely very visual, so if you have antique books with those amazing covers, those illustrations, you could totally make it work.
True, there are some gorgeous old books out there.
But you're right, different platforms attract different buyers.
So where would those bookworms be hanging out online?
Pinterest. It's all about visuals and inspiration, so think about creating boards for different genres or themes, beautiful photos to showcase the books, and then linking back to your Bonanza listings.
That's so smart. Okay, Pinterest for visuals, Instagram, if you've got those eye-catching items. What about the classics like Facebook and Twitter? Do those still work for selling?
Totally. Facebook is fantastic for building a community. Create a page for your Bonanza booth, share some behind-the-scenes stories, announce new listings. You can even run targeted ads to reach specific types of buyers.
That's a good point. I always forget about Facebook ads.
They can be very effective, especially for niche items.
Okay, Facebook for community building, ads. Well, what about Twitter? Is that more for like quick announcements or...
Think real-time updates, flash sales, new arrivals, or even just sharing interesting facts related to your niche.
Keep it snappy and engaging.
Exactly. It's all about staying top of mind for those potential buyers.
This is starting to feel like a whole marketing plan, not just setting up shop.
That's the thing. Bonanza gives you the tools, but it's up to you to use them strategically to really create that buzz around your booth. And if you're ready to take it up a notch, they have this program called Turbo Traffic.
Turbo traffic, intriguing. What's the deal with that?
Basically, it's Bonanza's own advertising platform. You pay per click, so you're only getting charged when someone actually clicks on your ad, which is nice. And you can set a daily budget and target specific keywords, making sure you're reaching those ideal buyers.
So it's like giving your listings a little extra push, getting them in front of the right people.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to the customer service side of things, are there any other promotional avenues you're curious about?
Well, I've heard some sellers have their own websites or email lists. Do those play well with Bonanza? Are you allowed to promote outside the platform?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have your own website or blog, definitely link to your Bonanza booth. And if you've built an email list, that's a gold mine.
I've heard that email marketing is still super effective.
It is. You can announce sales, promote new items, even just share your latest Bonanza finds with your subscribers.
So it's like bringing your own fan club to the Bonanza party.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we've covered how to get those listings seen, but what happens when someone actually buys something?
That's where the real work begins, right?
Well, in a way, yes. This is where customer service takes center stage. What are Bonanza's golden rules for keeping those buyers happy?
I'm all ears.
Be fast, be friendly, be helpful. Those are the 3 pillars of amazing customer service on Bonanza. Respond to inquiries quickly, ideally within 24 hours. Be polite and professional, even if someone's being a bit difficult. And always go that extra mile to resolve issues, make things right.
So no ghosting buyers or being snarky in your replies, even if you're having a bad day.
Nope, not a good look. Remember, every interaction you have reflects on your reputation as a Bonanza seller. And speaking of reputation, feedback is huge E on this platform.
It's like the currency of the online marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Those good reviews are so valuable. But how do you get people to actually leave feedback without being, annoying about it?
It's all about the experience, Focus on delivering an amazing customer experience from start to finish. Make sure they get their item quickly, packaged well, everything as promised. Once the buyer has confirmed they've received the item and that they're happy, you can gently nudge them towards leaving feedback.
So something like, hey, if you love that antique clock, let the world know.
More like, hey, if you have a moment, I'd really appreciate you leaving some feedback on Bonanza. It helps other buyers find my booth, and it lets me know what I'm doing well so I can keep making everyone happy.
Subtle, but effective.
Exactly. All right, now before we move on to some common mistakes to avoid, do you know Bonanza has some unique features beyond the basics?
Really? I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
They have this really cool tool called the Customer Marketing Tool. It lets you connect with past buyers.
Oh, that's smart. Keep those relationships going.
You can announce sales, promote new items, even just send a friendly, hey, how you doing kind of message, all within Bonanza's system, so it's super easy to manage.
It's like having a built-in loyalty program. I like it.
Right. It's all about fostering those connections. And if you're really serious about making Bonanza your thing, your full-time hustle, they offer these things called web stores.
Web stores, what are those?
They're basically standalone websites, but they're fully integrated with your Bonanza inventory.
Oh, wow. So you have your own website, but it's powered by Bonanza.
Exactly. You get a custom domain name. You have way more control over the design and layout. It's the whole shebang.
So if you want to take your branding to the next level,
web stores are definitely something to consider, especially if you're ready to invest in growing your business beyond just the marketplace itself.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Yeah. From listing tips to marketing strategies to Bonanza-specific tools.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gone from Bonanza newbie to, well, maybe not expert level yet.
But you're definitely on your way. And that's what's so exciting about this platform. You can start small and really scale up as you grow.
It's like that whole level up concept, but for online selling. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's shift gears and talk about some common pitfalls, some mistakes that sellers often make on Bonanza. Knowing what not to do can save you a lot of trouble down the line.
Avoiding those rookie errors can be a game changer. Let's dive in.
Okay, we're in the home stretch of our Bonanza deep dive. We've covered setting up shop, all the marketing strategies, but now it's time for a little cautionary tale.
Yeah, consider this Bonanza myth-busting time.
Because let's be real, everyone makes mistakes, even seasoned sellers.
Oh, for sure. There are definitely some common traps that even the pros can fall into.
So what are some of those big don'ts we should watch out for on Bonanza?
You know, it's funny. One of the most common mistakes is something we already talked about.
Really? Which one?
It's those item traits.
Oh, those little tags.
Yeah, a lot of sellers rush through those, or they just choose random ones they don't think it matters much.
Oh, they matter a lot.
They're key why for getting your listing seen in search.
It's like if you think about a library.
Ooh, I like this analogy.
You can't just toss a book anywhere and expect someone to magically find it.
Exactly. Those categories, those genres, they exist for a reason.
And those item traits are like those categories, but for Bonanza.
Precisely. And while we're on the topic of organization and staying on top of things, another mistake is ignoring those Bonanza updates.
Updates.
Yeah, they're always tweaking things, changing the fees, adding new features.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of platform.
Nope. You got to be an active participant in the Bonanza world if you want to succeed.
So it's not enough to just set up shop. You've got to stay engaged with the whole community, the platform itself.
Exactly. And of course, all those basics we talked about, those still apply.
The bad photos, vague descriptions, crazy pricing.
All big no-nos.
Bonanza's competitive. Buyers have a lot of choices.
It's like showing up to a job interview in your pajamas.
Not the best first impression.
Not at all. And don't forget about customer service. That can make or break you.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that.
Slow shipping, poor communication, not resolving issues quickly.
Those can hurt you big time.
They can tank your reputation faster than you can say negative feedback.
So it's really a combination of putting in the work up front and then staying engaged throughout the whole selling process.
That's the secret to Bonanza success. It's not about tricks or shortcuts. It's about understanding how the platform works, being reliable, being customer-focused.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned a ton.
Me too. And I think what's really cool is how Bonanza fits into the larger world of online selling, you know. It's not just about those individual transactions. It's about building something sustainable, a real presence in a marketplace that actually values both buyers and sellers.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Maybe someday we'll be the Bonanza veterans sharing our wisdom with the newbies.
Until then, we've got some listings to create and some turbo traffic to explore. Thanks for joining us on this Bonanza Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time for another adventure in knowledge.